Before Christmas, Republicans and Democrats must hash out a deal to avert a government shutdown. The deadline is December 20, and there is still much to hash out. On Wednesday, Speaker Mike Johnson refused the administration's request to include $24 billion in aid to Ukraine. The Republicans are hoping for a clean bill, and of course, the Democrats want to jam in as much pork as they can, so the bill is fatter than any holiday ham you've ever seen. But the real question is, are Democrats serious about funding the government? Or are they purposely creating more of a mess to lay on President Trump's desk when he arrives back into office, like they seem to be doing in Europe? Here's in the studio, in person, is Congressman out of Missouri, Eric Burlison of the 7th District. Welcome back.
Good to see you, Chanel.
What is happening in this conversation, and do you think there's some ulterior motives here on the left's part in trying to create a messier landscape for Trump?
Yeah, I think that what I've learned in the year and a half or 2 years I've been here is that I work with a bunch of junkies, people that are addicted. They're addicted to spending other people's money. And they know sobriety is about to hit them with the new administration. So this is the last fix that they're trying to get before...
It's a good analogy.
before the dance ends and the
Right.
lights turn on, right?
It seems that we have this dance every single year these days. It seems like this is not an unfamiliar battle, and it seems that the arguments are generally the same. Mm-hmm. It just seems like this time, though, there are some additional concerns that they are going to have going into a Trump administration.
Yeah, I think the fact that the American people voted Donald Trump into office, I think it's giving some members of Congress, some Republicans, a little bit of a backbone, because now we know he's coming in. Things are going to change. There's going to be a new sheriff in town. So it gives Speaker Johnson some leverage. Let's hope that he utilizes that leverage.
Much needed leverage. I mean, there is a lot of criticism waged against Speaker Johnson for having to, what appears to the public as him giving in. But at the same time, he does not have a lot to work with. Now it's a different story for him.
Yeah, he's got the threat of, if the Democrats say, let's shut down the government January or December 20th, Johnson can say, fine, we'll shut it down. We'll open it up under a Republican Senate and a Republican House. Besides, generally the government is shut down over the holidays anyway. So there's not much loss. The shutdown is timed right after the military gets their paychecks. So it gives a pretty good window of time. And I think that it gives the speaker the leverage to say no to the Democrats. We'll see if he actually does.
$24 billion to Ukraine, though. I mean, that just seems like such an old argument that it does not have a lot of momentum behind it. How did they think they could get away with it this time?
I think that it would be a complete sham. I think it would be giving Donald Trump the middle finger if we were to vote in $24 billion to Ukraine right before he comes into office, because he wants to fix or stop this war on day one. And if you just funded an additional $24 billion of weapons going into Ukraine, then it's really hampering Donald Trump's ability to start the peace talks.
You know, I've talked to several of your colleagues about this. I wanted your candid take on it. Why is the Biden administration essentially setting the world on fire on their way out? Giving missiles to Ukraine, U.S. missiles, U.S. navigated missiles to Ukraine. It just seems like they're doing everything they can to make it as messy as possible.
They are. I mean, this is what they've been doing the last 4 years, right?
Just out of spite? What's the deal?
I think that they truly want, I truly think that they want to spend a bunch of money. They want to put in place traps and pitfalls for the future administration. But, Chanel, this is, in the words of Steve Bannon, this is the primal scream of a dying regime. This is their last gasp and
it's a great line because it's accurate.
And the question is Speaker Johnson, are we going to, and in the Senate, are the Republicans in the Senate, are we going to stand for it? Are we going to stand firm and say no? We're not going to give in on these things. And if you don't agree, we'll let the government shut down.
Speaking of the U.S. Senate, on the other side, so many questions about what's going to happen with some of these nominees that Trump has announced in the Senate. You have Senator Joni Ernst and a handful of other Republican senators who have stated that they're not going to go along with nominating Pete Hegseth as DOD. What do you think is going to happen there?
I think that's shameful. That is absolutely shameful what they're doing. I mean, my message to the Senate is this: Donald Trump took a bullet to the head, literally took a bullet to the head. The American people elected him with an overwhelming majority, with a mandate. And Donald Trump drug the Senate into the majority. He led the ballot. His coattails is the reason why they have the majority. How dare you question or deny his appointees, particularly some of the people that are rejecting his appointees are people that voted in for Alejandro Mayorkas,
right,
or for Merrick Garland, right?
They don't have a lot of legs.
Or Lloyd
to stand
Austin,
on.
right?
But well, look at the rumors that are floating around this potential that Hegseth is going to be pushed out, and that potentially they're bringing in someone like DeSantis. I don't put a lot of merit into that because I don't see a lot of signals that would happen. Here's a soundbite from Pete Hegseth saying he's going to stay in the fight.
Wonderful process to go through and meet with senators and talk to them, especially members of the Senate Armed Services Committee, whose passion is the Defense Department, and our warfighters, to hear what they want to do to make sure that department is properly oriented for the threats of the world and make sure that we're putting the warfighters first. That's what Donald Trump asked me to do. Your job is to bring a warfighting ethos back to the Pentagon. Your job is to make sure that it's lethality, lethality, lethality. Everything else is gone. Everything else that distracts from that shouldn't be happening. That's the message I'm hearing from senators in that advise and consent process. It's been a wonderful process.
Now, the New Yorker and a handful of media outlets and people who spew out certain narrative spins have been going after Hegseth's personal life, which is less than stellar, but at the same time, these are the same outlets who have been radio silent when it came to guys like Hunter Biden.
Yeah, we're not trying to put the Pope into the position, right? We're looking at someone who is a battle-hardened, combat veteran who served his country, and we're not looking for Mother Teresa to run this Department of Defense. I want a fighter like Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
And my encouragement to him is, do not give up. Don't let this town, tear you down. I would say don't give up the fight. And frankly, I think Matt Gaetz should not have given up. I wish that he was still the Attorney General nominee because, and let these senators who are threatening to vote against you, make them do it.
Yeah.
Make them take a public stand and vote against Donald Trump, the guy who survived 2 assassination attempts.
Are we in a game of chicken right now where the Senate is getting a little bit of momentum? They feel like they bullied Gaetz out of a spot, and so now they're going to start putting their foot down on other nominees? Or is this just the way it goes in D.C.?
I think that there's a lot of ego in this town, but my hope is that the American people will check their elected officials. I tell my constituents, hold my feet to the fire, right? That's what I expect. I don't want to become part of this swamp. Keep me accountable. And I would encourage them to do the same thing with every other lawmaker, House and Senate.
There's another conversation that's happening, and this is more on the Democrat side. It's more internal, but it's fascinating nonetheless. You've got Jamie Raskin, a Democrat out of Maryland, now vying to push out a staple Democrat, Jerry Nadler, off of the Judiciary Committee as a minority leader. What do you make of that little fight that's happening between the two of them? Is that basically a civil war that's happening at the DNC level, or is this just a matter of changing the guard?
I don't really know the internal politics within the Democratic Party, but I would say either way, these are both hyper-partisan individuals. They have engaged in politicalization of the justice system. Jamie Raskin you just watch him in the oversight committee that I'm on. Mm-hmm. Here's an individual who's denied the truth about the Bidens and fought to protect Hunter Biden during all of these investigations. I don't know how he can sleep at night, some of the things that he's defended.
Yeah, it's looking at Jamie Raskin's background, it's not that different from the way that Nadler has politicized that Judiciary Committee, but either way, it seems like the Democrats are trying to shake things up, at least on that side of things. What do you look forward to most in the upcoming year for Oversight Committee? I'm
excited about DOGE. I just left a meeting. Congress, the House members met with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and it was exciting. And what was really exciting is to hear from them that get ready for bold, because we're not going to tinker around the edges here. We're not going to shuffle the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. We're going to go big, because America needs us to go big in order to save this country. And it was really, we had a very open and candid, refreshing conversation. And I'm excited about what we can do together, especially being on oversight. That is the committee that we're going to work with DOGE probably the most. What was your big takeaway from that meeting with them? That they're committed and they're already doing their homework. This town, the last couple of weeks, I've heard this town belittle those guys. Mm-hmm. They dismiss it as if, it's just a temporary thing. As though, just pat them on the head like they're, a naive, child. But they walked in, they knew their stuff. These guys know, look, they're very successful individuals. Look at their track records. And so I think that to belittle them or to doubt them is a very foolish thing. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and even better to have you in person. Thank you so much. Anytime. Why must Pam Bondi be confirmed in a hurry? South Carolina Attorney General Wilson tells us why. We'll be right back.